There are a variety of ranges here at Zia. You can do anything from running and gunning with a pistol to ringing steel at 700 yards. There are some common rules that apply to all ranges on the property and some specific rules for specific ranges. We're going to be taking a tour of the ranges. Let's go in. Let's start with the common rules. Zia is a family-friendly facility. Please try to refrain from foul language, displays of anger, or any other kind of unsportsmanlike conduct. If you observe any unsafe or inappropriate behavior, record the name or license plate number of the offender, time and date of the incident, and a physical description, and report it to the board. Don't attempt to intervene in a situation where anger is displayed. People engaged in shooting shouldn't be under the intoxicating influence of anything, including alcohol, marijuana, prescription medication, or obviously any illegal substance. Zia encourages you to bring your children to come shoot. If you do, make sure they're supervised at all times and help them comply with the rules, especially safety rules. Members are expected to clean up their own trash, used targets, spent cases, shotgun holes, and so on. The club provides trash bins for us. Use them. Try to pick up a little extra if previous range users forgot to clean up. There aren't paid staff out here, which keeps your membership fees low. Zia relies on the stewardship of members to keep things clean, help protect the range environment and facilities, don't climb on berms to prevent erosion and protect native plants, do not shoot target frames or other range facilities or equipment, do not use targets or equipment that belongs to organized club activities without the specific approval of the activity chairperson, keep doors secure to prevent wind damage, and let the board know if you find something broken. All wildlife is strictly protected at Zia. They live out here and we're visiting. Don't shoot at or near or otherwise harm any wildlife, yes, including the rattlesnakes. 50 BMG is not permitted at Zia for safety reasons. If you've got something higher caliber, that's not permitted either. Unfortunately, you're going to need to take your 20mm rifle somewhere else. Exploding or incendiary projectiles, including incendiary tracers, stationary explosive charges, and thrown explosives are not allowed. Fully automatic weapons or weapons with bump stocks, force reset triggers or similar devices, while very cool, are only permitted on certain ranges. If P&M crews are performing maintenance on the power lines that run along the south end of the range, they will post a note at the front gate. All ranges will be cold for the duration of the maintenance. Do not shoot at the power lines. Zia is a cold range. This means that all firearms anywhere on the range property, including on the firing line, will at all times be and remain unloaded with the action or cylinder open and detachable magazines removed. The only exception is for firearms properly present on the firing line when the range is hot. Carrying loaded firearms is prohibited anywhere on the range other than on the firing line. You can load and fire your gun only at the benches, firing line, or if participating in an organized activity, under the direction of a range officer. It is highly recommended that you unload all firearms before you come to the range. However, if you have a loaded firearm in your car, such as a carry gun or a self-protection firearm, put it into a case or a gun rug, and then take it to the firing line of an appropriate range when that range is hot. Once the line is hot, you can then remove the firearm for use. Gun handling, repair, demonstration, or display in the parking lot or any area other than a firing line is strictly prohibited. Holstered firearms should have the chamber empty, magazine removed or cylinder empty, hammer down. Rifles or shotguns must be empty, magazine out, slung or carried muzzle up, bolter chamber locked open. Firearms that do not lock open during carry should be propped open with some device that makes the condition of the firearm obvious to others. When setting up targets, make sure all rounds will come to rest within the berm. Pay attention to where rounds are going to go before you shoot. Place targets so as to prevent ricochets out of the berm or back towards the firing line. Usually this will mean placing targets deep in and at the base of the berm and maintaining at least 10 yards from metal targets. Make sure before you shoot that the downrange areas are unoccupied. Use paper or metal targets on most ranges. Do not use glass or materials that leave shards or any kind of hazardous material. If there's standing water on the range after a storm, don't shoot into it. Don't put targets on top of the berms of any range. Do not place targets on target frames, silhouette stands, or metal gong frames. Use only your own targets on your own frames, or use the target panels provided in ranges. Place targets only on the disposable backing between the frames. Don't attach targets to the frames or cross members themselves. Use common sense. We don't want you to destroy the target frames while you're out here. Don't use shotguns to shoot at Zia target stands for this reason. If shotguns are used on these ranges, shooters are expected to bring personal targets and stands. Do not use magnum calibers, armor-piercing rounds, or any projectiles containing steel, tungsten, or another enhanced penetration design on steel targets. Notify a board member as soon as possible if you observe any damage to the face of one of the hanging steel targets anywhere on the range. A cupped or pockmarked gong can cause dangerous ricochets. High penetration hunting ammunition, steel jacketed bullets, steel or tungsten core bullets, and other enhanced penetration designs can damage those targets. Do not use exploding or incendiary ammunition. Do not fire ammunition that you find on the range. It may be on the ground, but you'll find out it might not be free if you put it in your gun. Dispose of that found ammunition properly. All shooters and observers must wear quality eye and ear protection while the range is hot. That eye protection should be worn at all times by everyone on the range. Even when not on the firing line, or if the range you are using is under a ceasefire condition, other ranges might be hot. The importance of wearing proper eye protection at all times cannot be overemphasized. Wraparound glasses with polycarbonate lenses and good UV protection are recommended. A build cap is also recommended as additional eye protection. If you find an abandoned firearm on the range, render it safe, take possession of it, and contact a board member to facilitate its return. Every shooter shares a responsibility for knowing, following, and enforcing the safety rules. Don't allow other people to ignore the rules in your presence. If you see a potential problem, it's all of our duty to correct it. A polite reminder in time may prevent an accident. If the people involved become agitated or offensive, leave that range and report the incident. If someone reminds you of a rule, they've done you a favor and they've done Zia a favor. Respond with a smile, a thank you, and then correct the problem. Behind me is the small bore and air gun indoor range. In here, only 22 rimfire, pellet, and BB guns are used. This range is used only for scheduled events. It's not available for general use of the membership. The scheduled activity is responsible for cleanup as well. Heater shutdown, turning off the lights, and securing the building. It's mostly used for our juniors activities and the veteran air gun activity, as well as a meeting space for orientation classes. These are the small bore silhouette, bullseye pistol, and bench rest ranges. Since these ranges are not separated by berms, all of them are considered as one for the purposes of range officer control. Because of the physical layout and potential for varied activities, these ranges require extra effort and vigilance on the part of the range officer and all shooters. Again, do not destroy the target frames downrange. If you arrive and the range seems empty, it's advisable to check downrange before you begin shooting. Here we have the action pistol ranges, 3 berm areas. Since these ranges are separated by berms, they're considered separate ranges for the purposes of range officer control. Steel targets are not allowed in the easternmost action pistol range, berm number 1, as a ricochet can end up raining down on the ranges we just looked at. Place steel targets deep into the berm and position them to prevent ricochets from leaving the berm. A safety area is located between action pistol ranges 2 and 3 and is used during matches to provide a safe area for gun handling outside of range officer control. No live or dummy ammunition should be handled in the safety area. This is the 100-yard zero wind tunnel range. Zero your firearm before using this range to plus or minus 2 inches at 25 yards, 8 inches at 100, to avoid impacting the tunnel walls. Use an open range to zero first, then come here. Center your target on the tunnel opening when you place it downrange. Do not use the tunnel hatch cover as a target stand. Do not crawl into the tunnel, as desert creatures may be living in there and may resent your presence. Due to the enclosed space, extra hearing protection is recommended. Turn out the lights, turn off the fan, and secure the door without locking it before you leave. The hatch serves as a gate when firing is in progress to prevent entry into the impact area behind me. Close the hatch and the firing room door when you're done shooting to keep tumbleweeds and debris out of the tunnel. Over here are the practice or plinking ranges. Since these are two ranges separated by berms, they're considered separate ranges for the possibility of range officer control. These are the only berms where shooting at something other than standard steel or paper targets is permitted. You're expected to remove all debris from these areas when you're finished shooting. Remember, no glass and nothing that leaves harmful shards is permitted downrange. These are also the only ranges where fully automatic fire or fire assisted by a bump stock, forced reset trigger, or similar device is permitted. On all of these ranges, do not destroy the target stands. If shotguns are used, you're expected to bring personal targets and stands. These are the high power, big bore, and metallic silhouette ranges. Before using either of these ranges, make sure to raise the red flag at the western entrance to the range. If the flag is already raised and the range is in use when you arrive, coordinate with the range officer before proceeding. If the flag is raised and you can't see anyone on the range, you must physically inspect the entire range to make sure no one's downrange before you begin shooting. Drive downrange to ensure that no one's present before beginning that shooting activity. If the flag is not raised when you arrive, you must still ensure that no one's downrange before you begin. They might have forgotten. The last person to leave the range must lower and secure the flag. Since these two ranges are not separated by berms, they're one range for the purpose of range officer control. If the shotgun range is in use, before going hot, ensure that no one from that area has ventured downrange and continue to monitor activity on the shotgun range. Given the open nature of these ranges, it's especially important to place targets only in front of berms so that every round comes to rest in the berm and does not ricochet out of the range. The chain link fence on the eastern side of the range marks the boundary of Kirtland Air Force Base. Do not approach the fence for any reason. If the wind takes a hat or a target into Kirtland, it's gone forever. This range features firing lines placed on berms at ranges from 200 to 600 yards, with a military-style target scoring pit down at the end. The berms at the various firing lines are not target berms for casual shooting. Do not shoot at or place targets on or in front of the firing position berms. Firing lines other than the 600-yard firing berm, which we're on right now, may only be used during scheduled activities. Use of the closer firing lines makes simultaneous use of the metallic silhouette range over there unsafe. When you're done firing, secure the target carriers in the pit with the attached chains to prevent wind damage. Do not leave target frames in the raised position. Use only the provided target frames. Do not mount targets directly on the carriers. The large numbers behind each target are position numbers, not targets. This range has silhouette targets out to 790 yards. Shoot at the silhouettes only from the benches and the firing line. Do not move downrange to shoot at a closer range. Many of the berms on these ranges have T-shaped steel stands which are used only for silhouette matches. Do not damage these stands. If you're placing your targets in front of the berms, place them at the base of the berm so that your bullets will impact the berm but not hit the stand. Do not fire a rifle at any gongs that are less than 100 meters out from the firing line. Do not damage the steel targets by use of prohibited calibers or projectiles like we talked about earlier in the video. Do not mount targets on the gong hangers or T-stands. You're expected to bring your own stands to hang targets on this range. Targets on the hangers and T-stands create the opportunity for ricochets, as well as damage to the hangers and stands, which are made of softer steel. If the supports are damaged or the gong falls to the ground, do not fire at the remaining pieces of the supports. We're on the shotgun range. This range is divided into two sections, with one section for general shooting and one for activities. The general shooting area is here, near the flagpole. This area is equipped with several club-owned clay bird launchers for your use. These are powerful spring-loaded machines. Be careful with them. Don't allow anyone who's not familiar with them to operate them. Don't leave them cocked when they're not in use. When you're shooting, fire only in the direction of west to south between the white post markers on this range. Clean up all spent shells and any other debris before leaving the range. For casual shooting, when more than one group is using the range, a single range officer will be established for the purpose of ceasefire control and range safety. Formal activity shoots will have an appointed range officer who will control the entire shoot. Shooters must have permissions from the range officer to test fire any weapon. Guns will be discharged only in an attempt at a competition-type target, a thrown target within the normal confines of the range. A patterning board is located downrange. The minimum distance for firing at the patterning board is 20 yards. Steel shot, buckshot, or slugs may not be fired on the patterning board. A ceasefire must be called on the shotgun range before proceeding forward to use the patterning board. If you're going forward to use it and returning to the firing line, make sure to have your shotgun broken open or the chamber locked open as appropriate. Don't use any firearm other than a shotgun on the shotgun range. Only 7.5 birdshot or smaller are acceptable for use on these ranges. Buckshot, steel shot, and slugs are prohibited anywhere on the shotgun range. Go over to one of the previous ranges, set up your own target, and follow the rules of that range if you want to use any of those types of ammunition. The entire shotgun range is considered separate from the other ranges on the west side of Zia and may be used independently of them. The flag and flagpole are used only to identify the insta's use of the high power and metallic silhouette ranges and have no application to the status of the shotgun range. We appreciate your help in keeping the range safe and well maintained so that we can all continue enjoying to shoot at Zia. Remember that safety is everyone's responsibility. Help your fellow members stay safe and have a good time out here on the range.